Chris Paul is a former Los Angeles Clipper. That's where we'll go next. And they're in trouble. Playoff struggles are continuing, falling behind 2-0 to Dallas. Luka Doncic in that series has been absolutely unbelievable. He dropped 39 last night. Kawhi had 41, PG 28, but not much help for the Clippers and Tyronn Lue from their supporting cast. So down 2-0. The Clippers blew a 3-1 lead last year in the playoffs to Denver before getting to the Western Conference Final. There was some talk about them tanking the last couple of games in the regular season to get the more favorable playoff matchup, and yet here they are with that favorable matchup down 2-0 to Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks.
Oh, it's not going well. You have to. I think everyone needs to panic on the Clippers. The Clippers.
Ravix is hitting the panic button. There we go.
I'm definitely hitting the panic button. I just don't understand how this happens to the Clippers every single year. You know, you had last year in the bubble completely collapsed against the Denver Nuggets. And now in the first 2 games of this series, they look so overmatched by Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks. I mean, they had no answer for Luka last night on defense. And, you know, overall, giving up 127 points and just giving up a lot of 3-pointers. The Mavericks, they're not in the regular season. They weren't really a big 3-point shooting team. I think they ranked like 18th in 3-point shooting in the league. And now all of a sudden last night, they're shooting 53% from 3. And Luka Doncic, he's putting 39 points up, and really they don't have an answer for him. He's shooting threes off of one leg. He's just, stepping back. It's mind-blowing to me that a team that was built to be a super team caliber championship team, and they just fall apart in the big games. I just don't get it.
Yeah, it's really curious because this is a team that you feel like is as good as anybody, and in the regular season they were pretty darn good, but at the same time they just need to find a way in the postseason and have not been able to do that. And it's interesting because there were a number of people who mentioned that after year one, with how it went in the 3-1 loss to Denver, the Clippers might have to tear it down already. And that was on the heels of Paul George really struggling in the postseason. And now he was better last night. I think he was 12 of 22 from the field. So not outstanding, but not awful by any stretch. It was really the rest of the Clippers because PG had the 28, Kawhi had the 41, but they didn't get much of any help from anybody else. But yeah, it's amazing how they continue to struggle. And it's the first time we've had the opportunity to see Luka Doncic in the postseason. But I got to tell you, I'm not surprised by how well he's playing at all. He seems like the player who has the personality that is just tailor-made for success in the postseason. I think it's too easy to compare him to Dirk personality-wise, but I think that's who it is, a guy who won an NBA Finals over Miami in 2011 and, of course, was the Finals MVP and carried them the whole way. But they're getting contributions. They're playing really good team basketball right now. Tim Hardaway Jr. scored 25 points in the game last night to get them the win. So they're getting those contributions from the supporting cast with Porzingis as well that the Clippers are not. And I think it just calls into question about, are the Clippers putting their eggs in the wrong basket? They seem to have a strong 2, certainly a strong 1 with Kawhi. And then where does Paul George fall? But the rest of the supporting cast, which they have really churned through. Lou Williams was in and out, and a couple of other players for them who were on the periphery have come and gone, and they've really tried to rework the rotation. And yet it hasn't seemed to matter at all. The same problems occurring yet again in the postseason.
Absolutely. I mean, Paul George, you can't shoot 1 of 7 from 3, and you can't miss all those big shots. And I just don't see how the Clippers can lose 2 games in their own building and really have a chance for much of the rest of this series, especially with the way Luka's playing. And, we're ragging on the Clippers a lot, but let's not take away from Luka Doncic. He's incredible. And, the way he's playing should not be overlooked. But I mean, this Clippers team, they just don't have what it takes to win. And if they miraculously somehow come back and win this series, with the supporting cast they have, how are they going to get past the Utah Jazz? How would they get past the Lakers? How would they get past the Suns? I just don't see it. And I mean, I just clearly Doc Rivers was not the problem with this team.
Yeah.
Clearly not. And the same, because the same problems still keep coming up over and over and over again. And I don't know, but something needs to change organizationally with the Clippers. This is a tough pill to swallow. And, you lose the last two games of the regular season. Kawhi and Paul George don't play against the Rockets and the Thunder, the two worst teams in the West. You lose both of those games, and now you get the Dallas Mavericks, and you really just have a whole egg on your face after these first two games. And now you have to travel on the road to Dallas. The Clippers, I think they're just about done. That's all I got to say. The Clippers, I don't know. They're finished.
The optics of it are always interesting, and maybe we'd be having a different conversation. Of course, we'd be having a different conversation if the Clippers were up 2-0, because then they looked like geniuses for getting the more favorable matchup and losing those two games, because they know what's going on and they have the courage to do what other teams don't and just playing smarter. But it looks like a team that was scared, that's trying to pick and choose. And that the teams that are really good, they say, we don't care who will play. We'll just go out and beat anybody who's put in front of us. We're going to beat whoever's on our schedule. And the Clippers seem to really pay attention to that a little bit, which I just don't think is ever an encouraging sign. So something that seems to be woven into the fabric of that organization that's going to need altering. And of course, it could all blow up. Kawhi Leonard has the opportunity to leave. Paul George in the postseason, afterwards anyway, in the offseason rather, has the opportunity to leave. So we'll monitor those situations. And of course, the series not over yet, but there is the possibility that this could be the end for an experiment that would have blown up and just really failed for the Clippers in signing Kawhi Leonard and then getting the trade for Paul George and seeing that thing just really not work out.